Right, let's do this. It's the final lap. You ready? Go. Now that Cloud's back in town, our first mission takes us straight to Junon and another bit of huge materia, inside an underwater reactor. Cloud's been away too long and, yeah, we kinda missed him a little, didn't we? We certainly missed his ass-kicking powers, that's for sure. The dungeon itself's a fairly straightforward reactor, with a couple of weird enemies and a lot of soldiers to be put to the sword. And finally, a rather tricky boss fight at the end. Carry armour hits hard, can remove members of the party, and can end the game of anyone who hasn't prepared themselves appropriately. But of course, we came prepared. Still, he thwarts us long enough for the huge materia to get away inside a red submarine, so we take off in hot pursuit. And there's a nice little touch here. The Shinra guards in the sub are the same people we encountered way back in Disc 1 when Cloud was cosplaying as a regular grunt for all those minigames. And we're allowed to just take them hostage as opposed to killing them. Anyway, here's the submarine minigame. And there goes the submarine minigame. I don't know if they really thought this one through. Hey ho, never mind. The upshot of all of this is that we now have a sub, so we can explore underwater, which we'll certainly be doing in a bit. For now though, there's a more pressing matter. The last bit of huge materia is on its way to Rocket Town via plane. So we rush back, but alas, we don't make it in time. And so we take off in the high wind in hot pursuit, making it just as the rocket's about to lift off. More Shinra guards get bodied, and we get to fight Rude as well. He's no match for us now. We make it to the rocket, but, well, Sid loses a little focus on the mission at hand. After all, he always wanted to be in space, didn't he? So naturally he starts commanding the crew. And of course he badmouths Shira because, well, forget it, he's Sid. And then Palmer, that shit, goes ahead and launches the rocket. Finally, Shinra's space program did something. And we're on a collision course with Meteor. So, looks like the game's over. Not so fast. You don't think Sid wouldn't have set up an escape pod for something like this, would you? Of course he did. Before we leave, we have to take the huge materia as well, which we do by entering a code that basically only exists as a reason to sell strategy guides. Seriously, there's barely any clues for it. Fortunately, I remember it. Okay, so, time to get out of Dodge. But as we do, an oxygen tank explodes, trapping Sid. Bugger. It appears to be the end for our precious captain. And yeah, it's the same oxygen tank Shira was working on. Sid realises that she was right the whole time, and that he probably wouldn't be here at all if she hadn't stayed to work on that tank all those years ago. And fortunately, she's also here now, and she can help free Sid from the tank. So finally, Sid stops treating Shira like a piece of shit. Hooray! And also, he managed to live out his dream at last. He's in space, in space, in space, in space. And we're going back home. But what about the rocket? The world wishes it on as it gets closer and closer, Bugenhagen looking on in his observatory. There's a massive white light as it hits, and as the light fades, we see that it did some damage, but not nearly enough. Meteor heals itself, and all the crumbs come back. The calamity is still in the skies, and Shinra's plan failed. Therefore, yep, we're totally screwed. Back on the high wind, there's, well, not a massive amount to say. Where do we go? Oh, where do we go now? Well, maybe we can screw around a little. Hell, there's little point in doing much else. So we fly around and see how the world's coping. The answer is, yeah, not very well. Even the Shinra scientists at Nibelheim are shitting themselves. Just for kicks, we head off into that old Shinra mansion. And suddenly, we're thrust into a flashback. This is some time after the whole Nibelheim incident, a couple of years probably, after the rebuilding of the town. A scientist goes to check on a couple of tanks in the corner, but all of a sudden they open, and he gets punched out by Zack. Zack quickly opens the other tank and rescues Cloud. Zack seems okay, but Cloud's looking a little worse for wear, like he's had quite a few experiments performed on him. Zack and Cloud get the hell out of Dodge and hitch a ride on a truck. Cloud's kind of out of it, but Zack talks a lot about his plans for the future. Ultimately, he decides that he's going to become a mercenary. Because, well, why not? You're an ex-soldier on the one, you've got a big sword on your back. If life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Ultimately, Cloud and Zack find themselves on the outskirts of Midgar, getting ready to hit the town, when all of a sudden, Zack is shot by a group of Shinra soldiers who quickly surround him and finish him off. They decide not to bother with the semi-conscious Cloud. And as they leave, Cloud crawls over to his fallen friend and picks up his sword. So yeah, this is the last bit of the puzzle. How Cloud came to assume Latex's soldier identity, how he and Zack escaped from Hojo's experiments, and how Zack met a rather tragic, senseless end. Of course, if you want a lot more detail about this, you can go ahead and play Crisis Core, one of the few worthwhile portions of FF7's extended universe. For few reasons other than sheer bloody-mindedness, we go off to Bone Village and dig for treasure. We find something quite odd there, a key to Sector 5. Turns out that this will allow us access back into Midgar. We can't do a hell of a lot there, although there are a couple of cool things to pick up, and hey, it's always nice to revisit Wall Market again. But when we go into the church, we're greeted by a strange vision. Oh my god, Aeris is there! Naturally, we rush forward after rubbing our eyes, but she disappears. The kids there even ask where the flower lady went off to. But still, this fucking scene. God only knows how many posts about how it was possible to revive Aeris this one scene inspired. I've heard that it's actually just little more than a glitch, but it certainly comes at a rather inopportune time. Oh, and of course, we should also check out our new toy. Obviously, the first thing we do is go back to the Red Submarine and pick up that huge materia, which we do. And then we... Wait a second. What's that weird thing moving around? Maybe we should go have a look. And then, oh my fucking Christ! Behold the monster that strikes fear in all players of the game. This is the Emerald Weapon, and this is what it does to those who bump into it. Emerald Weapon has 1,000,000 HP, not an exaggeration, and does horrifying damage with every single attack. Depending on how much materia you've got equipped, this monster can hit you with the frickin' damage cap. If you bump into it without being prepared, guess what? You're dead. And we are not prepared. Shit, we even have frickin' Kate Sif in our party for some reason. We're fucked. There's just no hope at all. Wait a minute. What? What? That actually just happened. Did you know that Kate Sif's slots can potentially insta-kill any enemy in the game, including this frickin' weapon? And it just did. Seriously, I didn't cheat to fuck or save scum or anything. Honestly, no sir-wee. Okay, maybe I did. Do you want to spend 20 frickin' hours raising a gold chocobo? Because I don't. So, yeah. Emerald Weapon is dead. It's dropped something called a Earth Harp. Yeah, it's worthless. What a swizz. But yeah. Sorry I called you cat shit, Kate Sif. Now for God's sake, please don't kill me. Also while underwater, we happen across this place. Turns out that the plane that shipped the huge materia to Rocket Town didn't make it home. This is its wreck. The plane's called Legelnica, and it's home to quite a lot of loot, and another battle with Reno and Wood, who so happen to be here because they want the loot for themselves. Yeah, like that'll happen. It's also home to a lot of very strong enemies, and as such it's my go-to place for levelling up. Yuffie also gets her ultimate weapon here, making her a bloodthirsty monster on the same level as our almighty Sid. Then again, maybe not. Back in Rocket Town, Sid got his ultimate weapon, making him the psychotic captain of hell. On Legelnica I smiled as our Lord and Master, Sid Highwind, became the first member of our party to hit the damage cap. And so with that, the main party is complete. Many a successful FF7 one is based on hours of brutal training here in Legelnica, I promise you that. Cloud, Sid and Yuffie will tear anything apart, they're unstoppable. Hell, Cloud's even kinda lagging behind these two at the moment, although that won't last. Speaking of Yuffie, why don't we go west to her hometown? We don't have much better to do. As we hit the island though, she pops up acting all strange, and then some Shinra soldiers ambush us. And after winning the fight, we find out that Yuffie has stolen all of our bloody materia. This isn't exactly what we want to be doing right now, but well, we've got to chase her. And so we do, to the only town on the continent, a sunny, rather exotic place called Wutai. The classic feudal Japan-themed town, pretty much. It's worth noting that Wutai went to war with the Shinra a few years back, the event where Sephiroth made his name, where Elmira's husband died, and so on. And since then, it's pretty much just a stagnant resort town. Still, it's a nice place. Even the Turks are here, freshly recovered from having their asses kicked at the Jellicoe, of course, because hey, it's not like this footage was obviously recorded an age ago or anything, and I could only fit it in now. Anyway, they're not exactly pleased to see us, seeing as they're on holiday. They have no desire whatsoever to fight us, which is just as well, seeing as we have materia to find. Eventually we do find Yuffie, who tries to tell us a sob story, but of course it's all rubbish and she runs off again. The second time we find her, it turns out she's been captured, but not by the Turks. Of all people, it's freaking Don Corneo, that pimp from all the way back in the Wall Market. Plus he's got Elena too. And so that's how our party and the Turks end up, unofficially at least, joining forces. Or at least, we're not going to bother each other. Corneo is, of course, as unpleasant as ever, especially when you consider that Yuffie is basically a teenager. You just want to smack this bastard around. But of course, he has another pet for us. Raps is a hell of a lot harder than apps, especially with no materia. Sadly for the pet though, I so happen to have Meteor Rain. Fun's over. Still, Corneo's unbowed, and now resolves to just kill his captives instead. But then the Turks come storming in. This is one of the better moments in the game for the Turks, at least, as they, well, take care of the Don in their own special way. Nothing personal, strictly business. Speaking of business, as far as we're concerned, well, they're still on vacation. And so all's well again, Yuffie gives us our materia back, and she's still gonna ride with us cause, well, we don't have a choice to be honest. Still, we're not quite done here yet. Seems like we barely visited the town in all honesty, and it is a nice place. Why don't we stay a little longer? If we go to the big pagoda in the north of the town, Yuffie can take a bit of a test. She can test her strength by fighting everyone in the pagoda. Yeah. They're cocky enough, but well, I guess they don't know much about what the Conformer can do. Jesus Christ, Yuffie. After the massacre's over, we get to the top floor where we fight. Holy crap, it's Yuffie's dad. The boss of the town, in other words. Now this should be a really hard fight. No, not really. It might have been if it was earlier in the game, but not now. So Yuffie conquers the pagoda, and everyone's happy. Although Yuffie is rightly pissed off at them for both shaming Wutai and not being even 1,000th of a percentage point as bloodthirsty and as badass as she is. Godo resolves to restore the town's reputation and make Wutai great once again. Yeah, okay, whatevs. It's a nice sentiment, or at least it would be if that pesky meteor wasn't going to kill us all, and we still have no idea what we're going to do. But then Wed 13 gets an idea. Why don't we go visit his grandpa? Hell, Bugenhagen knows a little bit about the planet, doesn't he? If anyone's got even one half of a clue, it might just be him. It's certainly a cunning and subtle plan, and hey, we aren't doing bugger all else. Off we go to visit the old coot who flies around a lot. Bugenhagen asks us to look into our hearts to find something that we can cling on to. But we don't really have anything. Indeed, it seems like we're all focused on someone that isn't there, that being Aeris. We still miss her. But then Cloud thinks about Iris's plan. She said she was the only one who could stop Meteor. Why did she go to the Forgotten Capital on her own? She was the only one who had a plan and, well, we need to find out what that plan was. And so we need to go back there. Bugenhagen's pretty excited about the whole thing. He's going to come with us, in fact. Just what we need. While we're here, we also deposit the huge materia in the observatory. Seems like the best place for it at the moment. After all, the group's not exactly the best at holding on to materia, are they? Anyway, we're back here again. And no, things haven't gotten any less creepier since the last time. Bugen ho-ho-hos his way to a giant crystal, and there he finds something. We must search for something called Holy, the ultimate white magic, the only thing that can possibly stop Meteor. If there's a black materia, then it stands to reason that there must be a white. But where is Holy? Of course. It was in Iris's ponytail. It dropped into the sea when she was stabbed. So it's gone. We're still doomed. Or are we? It's clear now what Aeris was doing here. She was praying for Holy to come. But how can we access it? Hell, even if we could, would we even be able to use it? Only the ancients can wield this power, and there isn't any of them around anymore. But Bugen finds something else, ancient writings that he can't make out. They speak of a key that exists in a place sunlight can't reach. One scientist, Lord only knows who, made that much out. And so we have to go on a quest to solve this riddle. If it's a place where sunlight can't reach, then, well, it's got to be underwater, surely. And so off we go in the submarine. We find ourselves going down a passage where, yep, we find it. It's not the hardest of riddles, to be sure. The key is for a music box, and Bugan is quite overjoyed as he places it in the hole and sees the wisdom of the ancients spew forth. We must now go inside this wisdom, where we find an image. Once again, we see what happened. Aeris praying for holy, the materia falling from her ponytail, and then we see the materia at the bottom of the ocean. It's glowing pale green. It's active. Aeris did what she had to do. She successfully prayed for holy. She'd always intended to come back to us. Maybe she was going to tell Cloud that everything was ready, and that it was time to go. But Sephiroth stopped her, and he's still stopping us now. The power of Sephiroth prevents Holy from being set free and destroying the meteor. As ever, the solution is to stop Sephiroth. But how? He rests in that impenetrable cave, laughing. Anyway, as we leave the capital, we get a call from Cait Sith. Shinra didn't rest up after we screwed them over the last time. They moved that massive cannon over from Junon to Midgar, where they intend to use the city's Mako supplies to fight Sephiroth and presumably destroy Meteor in the process by reasons. This probably isn't going to do Midgar a whole lot of good. And then, guess what? The weapon rises again. Diamond Weapon rises out of the sea and heads straight towards Midgar. Cait Sith is going absolutely nuts at this point. We can't let Shinra do this. We can't let the weapon attack the city. It's all crazy, enough for him and Barrett to have a little bit of a row. Still, we know how crap Shinra are, so we can't exactly rely on them. Off we go to beat the weapon ourselves. It's not an easy battle, but yep, we certainly end up giving it a bloody nose. After a few stabs, the weapon decides to retreat for now, but while we've been fighting it, Shinra has readied the cannon, this fin that they call the Sister Ray. The cannon fires. Diamond fires on the town as the massive beam of Mako whips straight through him. So chalk off another weapon then. But the beam is still moving. It blasts the northern crater's barrier, and it was enough. The barrier is gone. The crater is open. Finally, Shinra did something. But still, Diamond's parting shot has an effect. Rufus looks on as a wave of energy smashes into his office window. We fly over to the northern crater to confirm what happened. There is no barrier. We could go down there and fight Sephiroth right now. But wait, Cait Sith has more news. The Shinra's in crisis, and the president is presumably dead. Is that all? No, there's worse. Someone has taken control of the cannon's mainframe. Of all people, it's Hojo. Hojo decides that he can't let Sephiroth's plan to destroy the world be interfered with. Mako is needed to repair the barrier, and he's going to give him all the Mako he needs. At this point, the edifice crumbles once more. The group quickly figures out that Cait Sith is Weave. They also find out that they can't simply shut off the reactors. If they did, where would all the Mako go? It would be released, somewhat violently, and the explosion would destroy Midgar. Cait Sith can't let that happen. So yeah, we have to go in. Scarlet and Heidegger appear to have figured things out too, and they place Reeve under arrest. They'll deal with everything themselves, particularly Cloud and company. So, looks like we're going back home. We decide to arrive in style. If we can't get to the cannon through the slums, we're going to parachute in from the high wind. 'Cause that's what we do, pretty much. Once we're on the ground, we need to go under to try and avoid Shinra's troops. Sure, there's resistance down here, but not quite as much. Still, we end up running into the Turks. It's kind of an odd moment, really. They have their orders, but they don't necessarily want to carry them out. We could just let them go, to be honest, especially after Wutai. But nah, they're Shinra. We go easy on them though, as usual wounding them just enough so that they go away. After making our way through the subway system, we find ourselves up top, ever closer to the cannon. And then we get another encounter. Gyahaha and Kyahaha sit at the helm of a gigantic machine called the Proud Clod, which they're going to use to squash us. Yeah, if it wasn't obvious before that the Shinra are just mad idiots who don't have their priorities straight, it's pretty freaking obvious now. Anyway, it's another machine that's built to destroy weapons. Crap! Or not. And with these two, we are not so merciful. Proud Clod explodes, presumably taking Scarlet and Heidegger with it. They will not be missed. And so we go up the ladders and the stairs until at long last we meet up with Hojo. So why is Hojo doing this? Why is he so insistent on the destruction of the planet? It's simple. He thinks he's Sephiroth's dad. He took him just after he came out of the womb. He raised him to become a super soldier. He completed Professor Gast's Genova project. And indeed, he's now injected Genova cells into his body. So I guess that means we've got to fight. Hojo has 3 forms, the latter 2 of which are thoroughly disgusting abominations. He sure as shit likes his chemicals, and he can throw tons of status effects at us. Still, all the chemicals in the world can't stop him from being a simple scientist, not a warrior. And so he falls. Hojo is dead. I think Sid sums things up best. And with that, yeah, Scarlet and Heidegger, dead. Hojo, dead. Rufus is presumably dead too. The Shinra is no more. We've successfully completed our hostile takeover, folks, and now it's time to erase their mistake. Because after all, none of this would have happened if it weren't for the Shinra, would it? Meteor is set to fall in 7 days. If we can't stop it, then the lights are going to go out, the balloon's going to go up, and that's going to be that. And so, with this in mind, Cloud decides to let the group go off on their own. All of them need to find something, a reason to fight, and a reason to live. For such a messed up individual, he isn't too bad at the old motivational speech. Everyone in the group can take a bit of time, and if they don't find a reason, if they choose not to come back, it's okay. No, seriously, Cloud won't hunt you down or anything. And so everyone leaves the Highwind. Everyone except Cloud and Tifa. Because, well, neither of them have anyone. There's no Sector 7, no Nibelheim, no nothing. All they've got is each other. Cloud and Tifa park the Highwind and have a heart-to-heart. Will the rest of them come back? Yeah, of course. I'm sure they will. Probably. If not, we'll damn well just have to do it ourselves, won't we? Cloud and Tifa think back to all that's happened, particularly back to the live stream. They wonder if the stars know how hard they're fighting, and if anything's really changed at all, and how much they've learned from each other along the way. And throughout all of this, they know that they have each other. All the way along, Cloud was searching for Tifa, and Tifa was searching for Cloud. Hell, everyone was searching for Cloud. Finally, though, they found each other. And regardless of all that's happened in the past, that's the most important thing now. But, well, they don't need to talk for each other to know. When we return, it's dawn. The moment can be stretched out 1 second after the other, each one never to be repeated, but it's still time. And, well, as it happens, they're the only ones there. Cloud is philosophical about it, because they have each other at the very least, and if they're going to go down fighting, then so be it. So we're back on the Highwind for final preparations, to walk into the Valley of the Shadow of Death, when all of a sudden, the plane starts moving. Cloud and Tifa rush back just as everyone else starts filing in. Hell, some of them were pretty much here the whole time. Yeah, Tifa is kind of embarrassed about that. But they all come back. Sid, Barrett, Red, Kate Sith, even our depressed former Turk and bloody Wutai princess have joined us. And of course, she's still very much there. In spirit, at least. Gee, I wish the game would stop punching me in the gut with Aeris' theme. The Highwind enters super-powered mode, and we brace ourselves for the final battle. We're off to the North Cave to take down Sephiroth. One final disc change and we're there. So, we're nearing the end. The ladder's down, and we can now go to the final dungeon. But, well, why don't we screw around a little bit more? For old time's sake. I mean, sure, the meteor's going to hit in a couple of days, but so what? There are some final things to do, like go around and see how everyone's doing. We randomly go to Calm again, where we find some guy who wants to go travelling. Weirdly, he's also looking for something called an Earth Harp. Ah, the thing we got back when I cheated to beat the Emerald Weapon. So we do a little trade. We give him this harp that's completely and totally useless to us, and he gives us a full set of mastered materia with every spell, summon and command in the game. What the fuck? Where were you all this time, goddammit? What, you didn't want to throw your gun in for the cause, huh? Oh well. We're warded to the gills now, so we can go ahead and bother some more weapons. Ultimate weapon, the one that bothered us in the deal, is flying around in the sky, and we can have a few battles with him. I could try and hype him up, but honestly, Ultimate weapon is really freaking easy now, even without all this crazy materia we've got. The only thing that's annoying about the battle is waiting for him to stop flying so we can hit him again. And for winning the battle, we get two things: Shadow Flare, an incredibly nasty enemy skill that's his only attack of note, and Cloud's ultimate weapon, imaginatively named Ultima Weapon, which finally allows him to do Sid scale damage. A short while after though, we spot this tiny little dot in the Gold Saucer Desert. Shall we bump into it? Hell, why not? And shit. Now this is a different story. The last weapon in the game, the Ruby Weapon. Ruby Weapon has 700,000 HP, slightly less than Emerald, but that's negated by the fact that he's basically impervious to pain. He hits almost as hard, and he can make your party disappear. Every single attack comes with about 1,000 different status effects too. This guy's a real scum, basically. Now I could do the whole cheating thing again, but I don't need to. We'll do this the old-fashioned way. So here's the strategy. Of course you start with two guys knocked out, so Ruby doesn't do it himself. Then you use a materia called W Summon that we won in the battle square. This allows you to cast two summons at once. The first summon is Hades, which exploits Ruby's solitary weakness. It can be stopped. And the second? This motherfucker! Knights of the Round. This is the summon the developers put in for anyone having any serious trouble with the game, as it's basically a one-hit kill for almost anything, doing tens of thousands of points of damage. The Mime command allows you to repeat this without spending tons upon tons of MP too. So you do this, as well as prepping Cloud up with elixirs whenever Ruby gets a hit in, and make sure you've got status effect protection as well. It's a hard battle, but we won. And we get a Desert Rose. Maybe the guy in Calm has an interest in it. No, turns out he does. And in return he gives us a freaking gold Chocobo. Now I hate the massive Chocobo breeding grind and I never do it, which is why I haven't covered it, but this is the end result of that. A Chocobo that can go anywhere in the game, crossing mountains, rivers, oceans, the lot. This would allow you access to special caves where you would actually get materias like Mime and indeed Knights of the Round. Anyway, the weapons are dead. No more will they be able to fly around destroying things. Meteor can do a perfectly fine job of that itself. Next up, Cosmo Canyon. Let's see how Bugan's doing, shall we? We arrive with Wedding the party, but we're immediately told that Grandpa isn't well at all. He hasn't been the same since he got back from the Forgotten Capital. Nanaki rushes to see him and the party leaves him alone for a quiet moment. Bugan talks about his long life, Nanaki doesn't want him to go, all that stuff. And after giving Nanaki one final memento, Bugan croaks out his last ho 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 and dies. Nanaki rejoins the party around the fire and says that, actually, Bugan's fine. He's fighting fit and on his way to another journey. I quite like this part, actually. It's another comment on dealing with loss. Nanaki's reaction isn't grandiose, it's more like denial. And lastly, we take one final trip underwater and go down a long passage. When we surface, we find ourselves in a pool with a waterfall. And behind the waterfall is a mysterious figure. For this part, Vincent is required, as the figure so happens to be Lucretia, Vincent's one-time lover, who he thought he'd lost years ago. And of course, the real mother of Sephiroth. We get a wordless sequence showing us what happened, with Vincent as a Turk. We see how Hojo shot Vincent and experimented on him, and then we see Hojo take Sephiroth away from Lucretia. Hence why Hojo thinks of himself as Sephiroth's father. So if Lucretia gave birth to him, then maybe Vincent is... perhaps anyway. Lucretia is a soul in torment. She asks about her son, whether he's alive or dead. And Vincent deals with it in his own way, saying that Sephiroth has died. In doing so, at least he can put Lucretia's mind at rest. A bit later on, we return to the cave and find that she's gone. Returned to the planet, perhaps? She leaves Vincent's ultimate weapon and final limit behind, neither of which are particularly worth noting. But we've wrapped Vincent's story up at least. In fact, we've now wrapped everyone's story up. There's nothing more left to do. All there is the final destination. We fly the Highwind to the north and lower it into the crater. Yep, it's time to end this. And so, welcome to the final dungeon. Our party's beefed up, but it's still quite a challenging place. Large, maze-like, and filled with some nasty enemies. Quite a few of them can even cause instant death depending on where you're at. The music is also pretty awesome, as you'd expect. And of course there's lots of loot to find. Even here in the final dungeon, there's some serious equipment to be found. About midway through, the group splits up, and we can pick a path to go down. We end up choosing this rather languid place, where we find out, after all this time, that Cloud can swim! It's a beautiful locale, to be sure, even if the enemies are vicious. Finally, we arrive here, the entrance to the centre of the earth. The party comes back together and gives up any loot they found along the way. The final armies of death are heading towards us. It's time. It should be noted that at this point you could technically still go all the way back and leave the crater, but if you continue down, it's the point of no return. And well, as I said, we have nothing more to do. So what you gotta say, Cloud? Let's mosey. Jesus wept. Thank you, Sid. Anyway, time for blood. Tough enemies line all of these platforms, particularly the dragon zombie. That thing can certainly hit pretty hard. I love this bit though, the awesome lighting, the colours on display, and of course the Jenova music. And what do you think that means, huh? Yep, when we reach the centre, we get one last decisive battle with Jenova itself. Jenova's synthesis, by far the most disgusting creation of the lot. And actually, as it turns out, the battle was incredibly easy, especially considering that I cheesed it with Knights of the Round, for reasons that will become clear later. Jenova falls in pretty short order in fact, and so the cause of the original crisis is dead. But then the platform that we're on begins to crumble, and we all fall into the core of the planet, where he awaits. He who was in control all along, Sephiroth. And we can do nothing. He holds us all away, threatening to pull us apart. There's nothing we can do. We're putty in his hands. But the green light shines just behind him. Is it holy? If nothing else, it's a sign. Things can't end this way. Either we beat Sephiroth, or we die. And so we push one final time, and at last, we are in battle. So, the final fight. This is Bizarro Sephiroth, the first form. You've got to knock both of his sides out, then knock out the torso, and then the core. It's a bit of a puzzler this fight, and it can be a bit of a bastard. But this is the final boss, so, you know, there's no holding back. Don't take a half measure when a full measure is what's needed. Our groups hit the monster with everything they've got. He's got a shit ton of HP, partly because we used Knights of the Round against the last Jenova. I kinda wanted to make the battle as epic as possible, you know. And while the music here isn't exactly as memorable as what comes next, it is pretty awesome. It's like a Mahavishnu orchestra song, full on 70s prog. Still, for all the pomp and the circumstance, finally, the monster crumbles and disappears. Is this the end? Have we won? We can still hear the cries of the planet. It's not over. And then? This is it. Safer, Sephiroth. So you came here looking to fight a madman, and instead you found a god? If Bizarro wasn't a satisfying final boss, then, well, this one definitely is. Sephiroth's god form comes with gigantic wings, a background that looks like the very edge of heaven, tons of HP, and some quite stunning attacks, all of which hit hard. And none more so than the most over-the-top attack in the whole game, Supernova. Sephiroth calls on the powers of Meteor, destroys every planet in the solar system, absorbs the entire freaking sun, and then throws all of this and more right at you. You dare to doubt his godhood now? And of course you've got that music. The marching time, the choral chants, the super bombast of the whole thing. Yeah, it's one of the most famous final boss themes ever, and for pretty good reason. It's a very satisfying battle, perhaps the hardest one you'll find outside of Emerald and Ruby, and it most definitely fits the bill. Hell, playing FF7 is almost like one long build-up just to get a chance at playing out this battle again. There's no real strategy, to be honest, just throw everything at him, and we do. All the strongest magic, the biggest summons, and of course, Sid. Until finally, after one last Ultima, Sephiroth explodes into light and disintegrates. We took on a god, and we won. And well, that's all we can do. The rest is in the hands of Holy. There are no more barriers to take down. For now, we must leave. But wait. Wake up. A flash of light. Cloud knows. He's still here. He's still inside, and he's still in control. Cloud collapses onto the ground as his psyche flies away. No more. This ends now. We go down a long tunnel to a blank space where Sephiroth stands ready. No massive winds, no colossal statues, just him and his sword. I guess Cloud probably goes over everything at this moment. What happened in Nibelheim, all the experiments, all that the Shinra did, and perhaps most of all, that moment in the Forgotten Capital. It all goes into one glorious moment where Cloud slices Sephiroth into ribbons. Sephiroth may have been stronger, he may well be the better soldier, but all Cloud needed was the self-belief, and he found it. At last, Cloud is free from Sephiroth. A hand reaches out. Is this the live stream again? Is that Aeris? No, it's Tifa. This place is kind of falling apart and we really ought to get the hell out of here. Finally, we manage to get ourselves on a ledge where the rest of the group awaits. Cloud talks about the possibility of meeting her again. And then the high wind comes crashing down through the crater, ready to pick us up. It's all quite insane and chaotic, as Holy releases itself at last, gushing out of the crater, and somehow, we manage to get away. Meanwhile, in Calm, we get to see Marlene. She looks out of the window and sees Meteor sink its claws into Midgar, tearing the city apart. All we can do is observe. What is to become of us? Holy reaches the Meteor and positions itself between Meteor and the city, absorbing the rock, or trying to at least. But maybe we were too late. Meteor is still threatening to touch down. Holy isn't quite strong enough. Midgar is totally destroyed, with no hope and no refuge, and the planet will be next. But then, suddenly, the livestream starts poking up from the surface. It dances around in formation, the planet fighting back of its own accord. And we can only look on as the livestream gradually dissolves Meteor. There is a blinding flash of white light, and the last thing we see is the first thing we saw. Aeris smiles as she finally returns to the planet. The credits roll. But, well, what happened? Meteor may have been destroyed, but what about the rest of us? Where do we stand in the planet's judgment? After the credits, we get one more scene. 500 years have passed. A group of animals run across the plains, and they look strangely familiar. An older, grisly beast leads them, adorned with feathers and a rather impressive mane. It's Nanaki. He guides his cubs to a cliff's edge where they look upon a Midgar covered in green. The planet, at last, has regained control. And with that, the story ends. Game's over. All that's left is the series theme, the stars, and the reset button. And so, that's that then. The story of Final Fantasy VII. A story that I've gone through a good few times now, and one that gives me just as much pleasure now as it did close to 20 years ago. It's certainly not just down to nostalgia. Something about the game just makes it incredible to me. Even if not everything about the game works, there's just so much there. The best parts reach a level that just about no other game has managed to attain. It was impossible to simply strip the game down into a few moments here and there, and so I had to go through it all, to experience everything. And every time I do that, it's something special. It may be years before I pick the game up again. Hell, maybe I'll never play it all the way through again as long as I live. I'll just leave it at that. Hey, here's a funny story actually. On my last playthrough of the game, 5 or so years ago now, I never actually finished it. I was at the final boss with an impossibly strong party, literally toying with my prey, when Red 13 got confused and killed the party off with an instant death slash all. I actually wasn't even mad, but yeah, I never finished that game. So hey, it's nice to write that particular one. And it's nice to have taken people through this as well. I always say something like this after I finish a ridiculous project, but I highly doubt I'll put as much into another review as I have for this one, especially for a single game. It'll be a while anyway, that's for sure. Final Fantasy VII may have been done to death, but it's my favourite game of all time. And not just because it was my favourite game back in 1997. The fun parts, the sad moments, even the parts where the game does show its age or it does something that you'd frown upon, it's an experience unlike any other. You may well find RPGs that are technically better or that have better stories, but I don't think any of them would match up to this where it counts, at least not for me. Right in the heart. It's that game, and as always, it's a pleasure. And so, it's time to finish. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you've just ripped through all the parts in one go. Good on ya! It's now probably time to go for something a little bit more relaxing, chilled out and simpler. But who knows, a few years from now, Midgar might well call again. Who can say? But it's time to end the video. So, as ever, wherever you are, whoever you be, have a good one, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.